Hey gang, DVD Collector back in the movie room, and welcome back to Top 10 Tuesdays with myself, Joker5150, and Movie Collector 666. This is a very special list this week. It is Top 10 Favorite Alfred Hitchcock Movies. And if you remember from a couple weeks back, Top 10 Favorite Directors, Alfred Hitchcock is my favorite director of all time. Now, unlike the other videos where it's top 10 favorite directors, actors, actresses, those are really hard to do. This one was a little easier for me to narrow down simply because I love Alfred Hitchcock movies. I know what I like. I put them in tiers usually, and I always have. So I already have these lists made ahead of time. I just have to go through, and refine them. The fun part about these lists is actually narrowing it down to 10. That gives us a little bit of challenge for you guys to watch, because I don't actually just go to IMDb and say, okay, this one's 1, 2, 3, 4. No, there's a lot of research involved for these weeks in advance. I started looking at these lists, a month before I decided to do this, to get them ready so that I'm not falling flat on my ass right here in front of the camera. So I hope you guys enjoy these, and please feel free to play along. You can make your own video out there. That's fine. I love watching them. Scott Centeram has made one for the past 2 weeks, he might have been 3 weeks. I don't know. I lose track of time, and he lets me know that they're out there so I can watch them. And that's what you guys need to do. If you do a video on your top 10, whatever we're talking about, please send me the link via Facebook, on YouTube, in the comments. Tell me to go to your channel. You made one. I'd love to see it. So without any further ado, let's get into Alfred Hitchcock Week. So with number 10, this movie deserves to be on a top 10 list, but I don't think it deserves to be any higher than number 10, and that is, let's just jump into it. It's Alfred Hitchcock's creature feature, and that's The Birds. A very good movie, and just like any of the other Hitchcock movies, it's the director that makes these films. The atmosphere, the music, the tone, the direction, the editing, they're all key essential things with Alfred Hitchcock. And we'll talk a little bit more about those as we get down to the list and get into some of the really, really good stuff. But The Birds is another one. It's got great dialogue. It flows great. The actors in this film all take direction well, and just overall a great feel, and a great monster movie. So The Birds at number 10. Number 9, The Man Who Knew Too Much. Now this is the second time Hitchcock did this. This is the one with Jimmy Stewart, not the one from the 30s, which is also an amazing movie. But one guilty pleasure thing about Hitchcock for me is Hitchcock single-handedly made me fall in love with Jimmy Stewart. I found him in Hitchcock's world, and I've branched off and watched him in other stuff, and he's an amazing actor. And this movie's no different. It's just an amazing, flowing movie. That's all I can really say about it. If you've never seen it, you need to do yourself a service and go find this movie and watch it. Number 8, Dial M for Murder. Now this is one of the first ones on this list that we'll talk about that take place in a single environment. Now they do go out a little bit, and you see some camera work from another spot or something, but for the majority of this film, it takes place in an apartment. And Hitchcock is the master of this. He makes it so interesting. It's anybody else that you would watch a movie like this and it takes place in one room would just bore the living shit out of you. And Hitchcock does such an amazing job with this. It's just mind-blowing. Now, this movie has a lot of intrigue, a lot of suspense, just like a lot of Hitchcock's movie. He is the master of suspense, so definitely you need to check out Dial M. Now, one thing I am really, really in need to see is this film in 3D. I have not seen that. It did come out in 3D on Blu-ray not too long ago. I still have a DVD copy, but it's still an amazing picture. You need to see this. Number 7, another Jimmy Stewart film, Vertigo. Some very, very state-of-the-art stuff done in this film with the vertigo scenes. At the time, it was probably mind-blowing. Such a great film. Such a great performance by Jimmy Stewart. Maybe not my favorite Jimmy Stewart movie, because it is number 7 on this list. We'll get to the one I love the most. but an amazing film in its own right. So you need to go out and see Vertigo, or get out and see Vertigo, or buy it. Yeah, buy it. You can't see it in the theater really. Number 6, North by Northwest, often referred to as Hitchcock's best film. It's number 6 on my list, not because I don't enjoy it, but just because there's 5 others I like more. I do have a Digibook Blu-ray of this, and I love this movie. It's very, very good. I don't want to ruin too much. That's why I'm trying to run through these and not give you too much about the film, because it's easy to give away a Hitchcock film. Very easy. But definitely one of his best films ever made. Number 5, also Jimmy Stewart. And this is my favorite Jimmy Stewart film, and that's Rear Window. All takes place in an apartment building again. We see Jimmy Stewart and the very beautiful Grace Kelly. In this film about a reporter with a broken leg, he sits in a chair and looks out his window all day, and all the stuff that happens, and it's just mind-blowing. It's a great film. It's one of Hitchcock's best films. There's no real reason to put it number 5 for me, except for these other 4 are just a little bit stronger for me. And anyway, that was number 6, Rear Window. Number 5, Strangers on a Train. This movie does mean a lot to me for one reason. It is the first Hitchcock movie I ever saw. I seen this, fell in love with it, started buying Hitchcock films, I think on Amazon. As I would find them out there, I would buy them, and pretty soon found the Hitchcock box set, bought it. I've got lots of Hitchcock's movies now, and this one was first. This was the first one I ever seen, and the twists in this film just drew me in. Like, it's one of those, when you're younger, you don't really want to watch black and white movies. You don't really want to watch anything older. But once you watch one, you see that the story is very strong. The actors are very strong. You're like, wait a minute, this isn't much different than today's movies, just older. And this was one of my favorite movies for that thing too. It clicked in my head one day, and I started going back and watching all these older movies, and I credit it all to Strangers on a Train. So you got to see this movie. It's really good. Number 3, Rope. Rope to me is, now this is hard to say because this is a top 10 list. I think that Rope is Alfred Hitchcock's best film. I think it is hands down his best directed, edited film of all times. Now this movie is made to believe that it's one gigantic film. There's no cuts. It's just from beginning to end one long movie. There are no cuts. Now there are, I think, I could be completely wrong, and you guys can jump and stab me if you want. There are 4 edits in this, or 4 cuts in this movie, and they're all done just great. Like camera going behind a guy. When he comes back on the other side, it picks back up. Doesn't look like a cut, but that's where the cut is. In a doorway. It's not an actual, just a cut. It's one of the best editing jobs of all time. And to me, pound for pound, Hitchcock's best film. Why is it not number 1, you ask? Because I like the other 2 better. Not necessarily I enjoy watching them better. I would watch them more often. They bring something to me when I watch them. Not necessarily that they're better films to me, but I just like them more. So let's get into that. Number 2. Number 2 is actually the second Hitchcock film I watched. I bought it on a whim at a video store, and that's Lifeboat. It all takes place in a freaking boat. The whole movie takes place in a boat. And just like some of the other movies we've talked about on the single locations, such a strong script, such a strong film, all to take place on a boat and intrigue me like that. I love this film. I've watched it at least 10 times, and just love the living hell out of this movie. So you have to see Lifeboat, and it's usually not included on collections or anything like that. It's might even be really hard to find, but I recommend, if you see it, snag it. At number 1, the horror nut in me puts number 1 with Psycho. I love Psycho. I love the story behind Psycho. I love everything about Psycho. Norman Bates is one of my favorite villains of all time. The story is so amazing. The story about making Psycho is so much, it's even better than the movie itself. The fact that Hitchcock read the book. Hitchcock fell in love with the book, jumped up, had an idea, had his people run out in Hollywood and buy every copy of the book so that nobody could buy it, so that nobody would know this ending. The night of the premiere, he had lobby cards, be on time, you will not be permitted in after the movie starts. He had people, you can't come out once the movie starts, you have to stay in. Just totally one of the best productions ever. If you haven't seen the film called Hitchcock, I do highly recommend that movie. It is the story of Alfred Hitchcock and his wife, but it's during the filming of Psycho. So I recommend that very highly. And Psycho itself is such an amazing film. Based on Ed Gein loosely, we see Norman Bates and his psychological problems. And it's such a great black and white horror film. So that's about it, guys. That's Top 10 Tuesdays. Alfred Hitchcock. I'm very passionate about him. I love all of his movies that I've seen when I've seen a lot of them. And that's about it. So make sure you get over to Joker 5150 and Movie Collector 666's channels to watch their top 10 Alfred Hitchcock lists. And Scott, if you want to do one, great. Let me know that you did it, and we can share it around too. So until next time, guys, thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next Tuesday with, I'm going to give it away because people want to do these ahead of time. I understand. Top 10 favorite Disney animated films. Can't wait to dig into this one. So until next time, guys. Later.